Alright guys, so this is going to be an exam review for chapter 12. Um, be sure to take really good notes while you're reviewing this. So if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen, uh, pause the video, please go bring this and start taking notes, or you can type as well. Just open up a word pad and you can type these questions out as I ask them. Again, these questions that you're about to hear that I'm going to be asking you, these are questions that I've used on my exams in the past, as well as questions that I feel that may come up that I would ask now in future exams. Most likely, if you're able to answer the questions that I'm about to ask, and you understand the questions that I'm asking, you'll end up doing very well on your exams. So let's get started with it. So again, one of the first things that you'll notice or you'll see that I can guarantee you are images, and they could be matching or again fill in the blanks about structure. So again, you may end up with an image like this, and then the question could be where do you find the white track, or what is this part of the brain called? What do you call this entire structure here? Or specifically, what is this structure right over here called? How about this over here? What's that called? What is this entire area called over here? Or the question could be, where's the pons at? Where's the medulla at? Where's the cerebrum at? Where's the cerebellum? Where's the diencephalon? So be sure you're able to point these structures out in this on this image right over here. Moving down over here, be sure you're able to on this image. For example, over here, this would be the corpus callosum. So make sure you're able to, you can identify this structure over here, the corpus callosum. Um, Over here, this is the thalamus. Okay, this dark area right over here would be the thalamus. Also, you want to be sure you're able to identify the globus pallidus, which is over here, as well as the caudate nucleus up over here. So here you go. This is the caudate nucleus, and this is the globus pallidus down over here. In addition to that, be sure what structure would you find? Oh, let's see. Yeah, so would be the white matter. Again, this would be the cerebral cortex. Be sure you can identify that. Uh, so I don't know. Perhaps they asked something that's not over here, like where would the brainstem be? Okay, so again, the brainstem you'd find somewhere around this area over here, if it's going to be coming outwards. So the pons would be over there, the cerebellum, um, the medulla. These are the structures you'd find in this area over here. Uh, and then as we come down over here into this section, let's see what questions. So again, keep in mind, this is all going to be blanked out. I just put this over here so you guys can view this. So over here, let's see. The question could be, where's the dorsal root ganglion? Here we go. Perfect. Okay, or the posterior root ganglion. That's going to be the question. So again, the arrow could be pointing over here, and you'd have to identify this. So again, this would be the dorsal root ganglion. And remember, these are the spinal nerves that you're looking at over here. And where's the gray horn? That's another question. Okay, so here you go. This is the posterior gray horn. This would be the anterior gray horn. Now this over here. Now this would be the posterior median sulcus, and this would be the anterior median fissure. Okay. Moving forward, the other thing that you want to be able to distinguish over here, if you look over here, let's go down to this image. So over here, where would be the site of somatic motor neuron cell bodies? Also, where would the site for interneuron cell bodies be found? Um, the gray commissure, where do you find that? Where's the central canal? Um, where is the site of sensory neuron cell bodies? Another question could be, where would you find unipolar neurons at? Where do you find a concentration of unipolar neurons? Um, so be able to answer these questions. Again, look it up in your books and also study this. Be sure, what's this part over here? What's this part over here? So know these questions, specifically the ones that I just asked. Yeah, this is what I would look at in these images. In addition to that, again, remember, where is the cerebrum? So well, we already went over that. So make sure you know the major areas for the brain. Now, going down, moving forward, you also want to depending on your instructor, your exam could be all multiple choice, or it could be somewhat essay as well. So be sure you're able to explain what Alzheimer's is. Okay, what are the signs and symptoms? What testings are needed to confirm a diagnosis? What's the treatment option if there is a treatment? Uh, if you were to look at the brain, what would it look like, upon examination? If you were doing an autopsy, for example, you're holding it in your hand. What do you think the brain's going to be looking? How would it appear? Why are patients with these conditions likely to be dehydrated or hungry if they're left unsupervised? So make sure you can answer this question, and again, other questions that are surrounding this. So again, the best thing to do is first of all get an understanding, know what Alzheimer's is, right? And then just go through the series of questions that I asked that you see on your screen and that I've asked. Um, what is a stroke? Okay, what is a stroke? What's another name for a stroke? All right, and of course, another name for a stroke is a CVA, or cerebral vascular accident. So if the patient has difficulty speaking, what area of the brain is likely to be injured? If the patient has left-sided muscle weakness, what part of the brain is likely to be injured? If further testing showed injury to neurons in the pyramidal pathway, what other problems would the patient present? Moving forward to the third question, what's ALS? Okay, again, ALS, it's an acronym for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Now, what usually causes death in people with ALS and why? Next question would be, what's heparin? What condition is heparin used for? What are some of the contraindications of this drug? The other thing you want to be able to do is, going back to this question over here in number 2, what's the difference between a CVA and a TIA? Again, CVA is, as I told you, stands for cerebrovascular accident. Now, what's a TIA? Okay, so look this up. What's a TIA? Now, I don't want to give you the answers or tell you what it is, because then you guys are not going to study this. And the point for you is for me to steer you into the right direction of studying. So while as I'm asking these questions, and then you guys start writing this down and looking it up, is going to help you remember and understand this material. Uh, so again, describe the signs and symptoms for both a CVA and a TIA. Now, what's the function of the hippocampus? What would injury to the hippocampus result in? Next question. Why are children able to sleep through and filter noises, not flirt, filter noises? Let me change this to filter. Filter noises while adults usually do not. So in other words, for example, I don't know, the smoke detector goes off, okay? It starts beeping, or an alarm in your house, an intruder alarm goes off. Why do kids usually sleep through it and then, the adults wake up, all right? What is the blood-brain barrier? What is the BBB? Which part of the brain lacks it and why? What's the cauda equina? What is this? Where do you find this? What's this purpose, if it has any purpose? Number 10, describe the function and role of the reticular activating system, okay, or RAS, reticular activating system. Describe the function and role of the reticular activating system. I think I asked this already. Again, so RAS, what is this? What's the difference between short-term and long-term memory? Be able to compare and contrast. What are the homeostatic roles of the hypothalamus? So there's a handful of functions, several functions. What are they? List them out. What's the role of the limbic system? What is the limbic system? What's the role of it? Where do you find the limbic system? Which part of the brain is it at? Similarly, where is the hypothalamus of the brain? So again, as you're answering these questions, make sure you know what the structure is. Where do you find it on the brain? So go back over here. Where's the hypothalamus? Uh, Up over here. Show me the hypothalamus if it's over here. Or over here. Can you see the hypothalamus here? Obviously not. Moving forward, let's see. The next question is the limbic system. We looked at this already. All right. What functional losses would injure the medulla? What functional losses would injury to the medulla oblongata lead to? So, what functional losses would injury to the medulla oblongata lead to? What functional losses would injury to the frontal lobe lead to? Um, what also be able to, again, point out the medulla oblongata, point out the frontal lobe. How are we able to learn what area the brain's function is? So how do we know? So for example, oh, this is the visual area of the brain, this is the auditory cord. How do you know these things? How were scientists able to figure this out? Be sure you're able to explain that. What is this arbor vitae? What is this structure? Where do you find it? Cranial nerves. We have 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Aside from numbers, cranial nerve 1, 2, 3, 4, what are the names that are associated with it? So what's the other name for cranial nerve number 1? What's the other name for the hypoglossal nerve? What number is the hypoglossal nerve? The vagus nerve, which number is the vagus nerve? So again, make sure you're able to go back and forth with both these things. Likely, again, your instructors are likely to, again, depending on which book they're using, and again, how much detail was given in this chapter, be sure you're able to explain this. Where would you find the nuclei of the cranial nerves 5 through 7? Okay, the nuclei of cranial nerves 5 through 7. Where do you find it? What does the brainstem consist of? What are the structures that the brainstem consists of? What is the function of the spinocerebellar tracts? Which type of glial cells line the ventricles of the brain? The subarachnoid space is sandwiched between which two layers of the meninges? What are ganglia? What's a ganglia? Where do you find it? Which part of the brain is the visceral command center? Next, define the following. So what's a sulcus? What's a gyrus? What's the difference between a sulcus and a gyrus? Furrow and fissure. What's the difference between furrows and fissures? Describe the cerebral cortex. This is a big one. Okay, it's a huge area. What is the cerebral cortex? What are the different parts of it? What would happen if the caudal part of the neural tube failed to develop? The frontal and parietal lobes are separated by which sulcus? The lateral sulcus separates which two brain lobes? What information do the lateral spinothalamic tracts convey to the brain? Would one expect to find fiber tracts in the cerebellar cortex? Next one. Would the white matter of the spinal cord contain only myelinated nerve fibers? Or would you see something else there? Would there be more? Does the basal nuclei initiate reflex actions? Next question. Which part of the spinal cord would need to be damaged in order for you to see someone suffering from paraplegia? In other words, so here you have a term here, paraplegia. What's the difference between paraplegia and hemiplegia? Now, would damage to the primary cortex result in the loss of both voluntary muscle control and reflexive contractions, or just one? Okay, so would damage to the primary motor cortex result in loss of both voluntary muscle control and reflex contractions? This needs to be a question mark here. Which two large motor tracts serve voluntary movements? Which two large motor tracts serve voluntary movements? What purpose does the visual association area serve? Number 39. What function does Broca's area serve? Also, where do you find Broca's area? Is the prefrontal cortex involved in cognition and personality? Now, is it normal to find red blood cells in spinal fluid, cerebrospinal fluid? Alright. Now, what is REM? REM. What is REM sleep? Are any muscles inhibited during this phase? Now, during stage 4 and REM sleep, would you expect to see more theta or delta waves? Which one? Or neither? Number 44. Are theta or delta waves uncommon for conscious or awake adults, but common in children? 45. Which stage would you see a start? Which stage would you see a start to of a delta and theta waves? So, which stage of sleep would you start seeing delta and theta waves? And number 46. In an EEG, if it's flat, does that mean that the person is in deep sleep? Which stage of sleep is somebody likely to sleepwalk? And which stage of sleep would heart rate be the lowest? Which stage would you see alpha waves? So let me rephrase that. Where would you see a lot of alpha waves, a concentration of alpha waves? And which stage is typified by sleep spindles? And which stage starts after 90 minutes after you sleep? Which stage starts 90 minutes after you sleep? Which stage does dreaming occur in? Okay, so a lot of questions about these the EEG over here. Now, which stays? Okay, where would you find? Or here we go over here. Where would you not find white matter? Okay, what's declarative memory? What are the signs and symptoms of Parkinson's? I think we may have asked this already. Oh no, that was for Alzheimer's. Yeah. What are the signs and symptoms of Parkinson's? What's the ultimate cause of Parkinson's? Now, trauma to which part of the brain would lead to a coma? Which area of the cortex would be responsible for sensing that your bladder is full? Okay, which area of the cortex would be responsible for sensing that your bladder is full, your urinary bladder? What is the role of the vestibular nuclei? What's the role of the medulla oblongata? Where do you find the medulla oblongata? Where is the vestibular nuclei? Now, what happens if you had an injury to the hypothalamus? What are the symptoms you would notice? What are the signs you would notice? Where do the second or third neurons, going back here, would you be able to live if you had damage to hypothalamus? If you had an injury to the hypothalamus, would you be able to survive independently? Where do the second order neurons of the ascending pathways that contribute to sensory perception terminate? Okay. Where do the second order neurons of the ascending pathways that contribute to sensory perceptions terminate? If after a brain injury and you have no paralysis present, you're unable to play the piano, would damage be to the primary cortex or the premotor cortex? Which ventricle is continuous with the central canal of the spinal cord? Number 65. Name the structure that connects the right and left side of the brain. What type of fibers do you find here? Name the structure that connects the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland. What are arachnoid granulations and where are they found? Does the dorsal horn or the ventral horn receive input from somatic sensory neurons? Would tachycardia resulting from hearing a lion's roar nearby be an example of an emotional memory? What structures are found on the diencephalon? What do you find in the diencephalon? Where would you find the diencephalon? What is it responsible for? On the medulla oblongata, we have two longitudinal ridges called the pyramids. Are the fibers that cross here ascending fibers or descending fibers? Is the corpora quadrigemina found in the midbrain or the pons? And do the nuclei found here lead to the startle reflex? What's the main switch station for memory? What's the main switch station for memory? What is the name of the structure that is a sickle-shaped and is the largest of the four dural septa? Okay. What's the name of the structure that's sickle-shaped and is the largest of the four dural septa? What does the reticular activating system do? This was already asked. What is the reticular activating system was asked earlier. So the question that's being asked now is, what does it do for you in the mornings? Okay, what's the reticular activating system do for you in the mornings? or for most people at least. What are the three basic regions of the cerebrum? Three basic regions of the cerebrum. What's meningitis? Okay. What is, again, just define it. What's meningitis? Does the spinal cord end around L1 and L2, or does it end further below, like L2 or L3, or L3 or L4? So again, question: where does the spinal cord end? Where is it safe? Where is it safe to perform a spinal tap? Aside from the subarachnoid space and the brain ventricles, where else do we find cerebrospinal fluid? Okay, or is this the only place we find cerebrospinal fluid? Would a lack of oxygen result in syncope or fainting? Okay, would a lack of oxygen result in syncope or fainting? Or neither? Or both? Actually, this is a trick question. Um, yeah, I'll might as well give you the answer for this one right away. So, uh, what I'm trying to get at over here with this question is, again, for you guys to realize that both syncope and fainting are the same thing. Okay, so again, make sure you understand the terms, the terminology, understand what syncope is. Okay, would non-declarative memories preserve the circumstances in which they were learned? Okay, do the spinal cord and brain both start off as the neural plate embryonically? Okay, so do the spinal cord and brain both start off as a neural plate embryonically? For number 84, is the left hemisphere responsible for your logic abilities and your math abilities? What's the limbic system? This question was asked earlier. Is it responsible for our emotions? Where do you find the limbic system? What's the name of the canal that connects the third and fourth ventricles? What connects the cerebrum to the diencephalon? What connects the cerebrum to the diencephalon? Number 88. So this should say, would you notice muscle tremors at rest and uncontrolled muscle contractions if there was injury to the basal nuclei? Number 89, is the role of the projection fibers to support the meninges? Okay, is the role of projection fibers to support the meninges? Where do you find these projection fibers? Number 90, do most of the ascending and descending pathways cross over from one side of the body to the other? Does the primary visual cortex contain a map of visual space? Would the medulla oblongata be responsible for the depth of breathing? What else is it responsible for? Does the sorting of sensory information occur in the hypothalamus? Would embryonic damage to the midbrain, no, so this should say, would embryonic damage to the mesencephalon result in improper formation of the midbrain? Okay. Would embryonic damage to the mesencephalon result in improper formation of the midbrain? What is the insula responsible for? Okay. What is the insula responsible for? Which lobe would you find the auditory area? Which lobe would you find the primary somatosensory cortex? Which lobe is Broca's area at? Which lobe of the brain can the visual area be found? Which lobe is responsible for abstract reasoning? Is the thalamus responsible for acting as a relay station for sensory information? Is the prefrontal cortex the area of the brain responsible for judgment? Do the axons from the somatic cortex form the corticospinal tracts? Is the hypothalamus the main visceral control center of the body? Is the thalamus the gateway to the cerebrum? If not, what is the gateway to the cerebrum? Does the cerebellum ensure balance? Again, if not, what ensures balance? Are autonomic behaviors necessary for survival found in the brainstem? Would it be appropriate to describe the cerebellum as the executive suite? Okay, is it appropriate to describe the cerebellum as the executive suite? Would the hypothalamus be considered to be the visceral command center? What nerves serving upper limbs arise from the cervical enlargement? What's the conus medullaris? What is the filum terminale? Where do you find this structure? Where do you find this structure? Okay, so that's it. I had about 112 questions. Again, my exam did not consist of 112 questions, but again, like I said, I ended up asking, these are questions that have been used in the past, as well as adding new questions that I may ask if I were to give an exam to you guys for this chapter tomorrow, or again in the future. So I hope this helped you. Now, one of the reasons I didn't just publish a Word document or a PDF and send it out to you guys is because I don't want you to just copy and paste it into Google and try to get the answer. Again, the purpose of this is to deliver this information to you and for you guys to go and look it up, for you to research it. And if this entitles, if you're going to end up Googling the stuff, I'd rather have you type it out and do the work. Again, the more you write things out, the more you're involved with it, the more you're likely to remember, recall, and also to comprehend. But do yourselves a favor, don't Google the information up. Instead, use your book, okay? Because I'm not looking for the answers. Uh, Indirectly, by asking you these questions, I'm trying to get you to learn the things that are surrounding these questions as well, okay? So be sure to use your textbooks in to find these answers, and hopefully this will help you with this. If you have any questions about any one of these questions, leave it in the comments below, and I want you to guys to try to answer these, help each other out. Okay, so if somebody asks, oh, what's the main switch station for memory, or somebody gives the answer out, hey, is this the main switch station for memory, and then somebody else would come in and say, oh no, that's not it, I think the answer is this, or I think the answer is that. So try to help one another out. Post some questions in the comments area below, and let's see how this goes. Stay tuned for reviews for the other chapters as well. If you like this, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions, please email me directly, or again, you can leave it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.